it's fascinating just how so many people have the same sort of experience there of just going into the light, of feeling that sense of deep peace and being loved, which interestingly enough is very similar to what happens in deep meditation. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting, in India you call deep meditation samadhi, and they say death is maha samadhi, the great samadhi. And so you could say that, you know, they some of them see meditation as a practice that you can really experience death consciously.
How can we bring the wisdom of enhanced consciousness into the world that we're living in?
I again think this is where meditation is really important. And as I said earlier, there's parallels between meditation and the near-death experience. Mm-hmm. See, I think what happens in both is that we step out of the ego thinking mind, and that's the mind that's looking after our survival, trying to be in control of things, trying to make things work. And when you're near death, then there's no point in doing that because you give up, you're about to die, so all that ego thinking isn't needed anymore. And what happens in meditation, in the same way, when the thinking mind stops, then you're no longer caught in that fear mode, and you sink into a state of peace. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting, in the near-death experience, one of the qualities is of just a deep sense of peace and okayness, and I would say that's a quality that comes in meditation. It's like, it's all okay. And what is associated, the feeling of things being okay, is an opening of the heart. And that happens in meditation. There's that deep, unconditional love. It's not love for something, it's just love. One is love. You realize you are love. And I think that's also what happens in the near-death experience. And for many people, if you haven't experienced it in meditation, it's a completely new thing. Though I think people who have experienced in meditation may recognize it as well in the near-death experience. So I think by stepping out of the ego mind, quietening all those thoughts that come from survival-orientated concerns, by doing that in regular daily life, we can begin to get the benefit of the near-death experience without having to actually nearly die.
It was eternity. You know, here we are by the clock and the calendar every day, living in a linear fashion in the left hemisphere of our brain. Where I went, which is here too, but we don't realize it because we haven't expanded into it yet, is an eternity where it's forever. There is no linear time. There is no clock ticking. There is no calendar. There is this moment. There is the now. So I came in contact with the now. And when you're in the now, God is everywhere. And when I came back knowing that I was going to find out how to be this way here, in this reality, and then be here now, knowing this eternity, so that when I die, my body may die, but this part of me that experienced God will go on and on and on.
I'm wondering, is it possible to have some sense of God by, let's say, religiously paying attention to life in the now?
Yes, absolutely. Religion can be a path to all of this, but only if it's a religion where
by religiously, I mean conscientiously.
Oh. Paying
attention to life in the now.
Oh, certainly. Certainly. Yeah. People can get... This is why my husband and I wrote the book, The Power of Humility. Because in that book, we're talking about it being here and now and how to get there. It's really an easy journey. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, we have to convince our ego to let us take the journey. And the journey is a journey without distance, with a goal that's never changed. It's going inside and becoming our true self, and then being here for everything in the world.
I think one of the things that I've thought about greatly is that one of the things that bothers me so tremendously about the metaphysical movement, in lieu of my experience, and in lieu of what I was shown, which I think, if there's any message that I can give, it's not about meditating and leaving your body and taking your light being out of this earth. Indeed not. It is about bringing the light into this earth. Stay here. Be an anchor. Let the light come in through you into this world. Don't abandon this world, we need you. We need you here. We need you to be present. And we need you to be open with an open heart. It reminds me, in a very silly way, of the book called Horton Hears a Who. Everybody must be open. To bring this new age in, it is about opening your heart and letting it sing through you. It is coming. And it's a matter of all of us. Just open your heart and let it come in. Don't leave. Don't meditate and think this place is a bad place and we're going to get out of here. This is a wonderful place. And it's going to be even more wonderful. You're here to anchor the light so it can come into this dimension and be here.
With so many people who are having a really rough time, what is the evolutionary value of that? You know, if God is a loving God and if enlightenment is the purpose of everything ultimately, why do people have to go through such a hard time?
I think because, again, we ponder the question of love, but it's because we're trying to look that love and that joy and that happiness outside ourselves. Life is not here, Rick, to give us the happiness. Life is not here to give us the joy. Life is here to challenge us so we can find that joy, that happiness, that love within ourselves. And when we keep looking outside, life is going to shake us harder, saying, go look inside. No, but I want to look outside. Then it will shake you harder. No, you look within. And there's moments in which people have to go through very bad sickness, even to prison, to finally stop. Life shake you so hard that you stop. And it's just when you go to that place where you pretty much close your eyes, close the idea of thinking the world have to give me this. And you start finding it within. There's nothing I have to look outside because I am it. But if you don't get shaken that hard, you don't see it. You will always pursue it as something that is outside of you. And you will think you are in lack. Because incredibly, we always have been that. I always like the question that says, if the core of who you are is joy, love, happiness, peace, silence, greatness, the real question is, what am I doing to disturb that? So if we keep looking outside, life is going to come with these challenges to show us, stop looking, you're not lacking this, you are this. That's why when people, and in all the teachings, when they said, don't look for enlightenment, you're already enlightened. Don't look for what you already are. The more you seek, the less you find, the more confused you are, because you're looking, it's in a labyrinth. You're already that. You're already that presence. You're already that light. You're already that silence. So the question is that, how I remove the blocks. I love this analogy that came to me lately, Rick. It's like you have a bulb, like that lamp back there. And the bulb has its own, it has its beautiful bulb. That's what we are, this light. But we put a shade on it. The conditioning, they tell us whatever it is, the beliefs. What? We put a shade on it. You're not this, you're not that, or you're this, or you're that. And then after that, I like to always have a cloth. I drop it on me. And you put another cloth and another cloth and another cloth until that light that you are cannot shine. It is shining, but cannot be seen, cannot express itself. It's under all these layers of clothing or shades. And then what we have to do, and what life is going to challenge us to start removing these blocks, removing these shades. I said, people, look an onion. What do you do to get to the core of the onion? You have to remove the layers. But what happens when you remove the layers? What happens when you chop an onion? You cry. You cry a lot. So that's what happens. It hurts to remove all these layers and realize I am not any of this until you get to that light of who you are.
Yeah, in fact, it's important to be grounded here because I think some people feel that they need to escape this density, but I think the best thing we do is to be grounded here, but also not take life seriously and have and be able to access this sublime level, this subliminal level. One of the things that there's so many things that I talk about, as to how to do this or how to achieve this. One of them is that I actually tell people to stop setting goals, chasing, competing, pursuing. That's what keeps us in this density level, is this constant feeling of needing to compete with others to get ahead, this constant comparing ourselves with others. That, again, keeps us in this density and this feeling of frustration. Like, if we talk about teenagers, why do they feel so insecure all the time? Because they're constantly comparing themselves. So I think one of the things we need to learn and we need to teach our children is that it's not important to compare yourself with other people. It's not important to compete or to get ahead or to chase or to pursue. All you have to do is be yourself. It's to just go into self-discovery and discover who you are and express who you are, and express who you are with abandon. Like, don't be afraid to be yourself. From the time that we're children, and again, this is why we get caught up in the density, from the time that we're children, we're actually taught to conform. And this is actually what keeps us in that dense energy, because we're trying to conform, we're trying to gain people's approval. Again, gaining people's approval, that keeps us in that density. The other realm is so liberating and freeing. What we feel in the other realm, it's like a feeling of that I just have to be who I am. I just have to allow. It's a real freeing feeling. There's no feeling of needing to do anything, chasing, pursuing. There's no that, and all of that stems from fear. This competing, chasing, comparing, all of that stems from fear of not being good enough, not having enough. And once that's gone, we actually are touching that level that we experience in the near-death experience. Because we're physical beings, we call this a world of duality, and what duality means a separation. There's good and bad, negative, positive, hot, cold, war, peace, and so on. But it also means that we're separate, we're physical. Your physical body is separate from my physical body. When we are not expressing from our physical bodies, your essence, your consciousness, and my consciousness are actually one. You and I are one. And our consciousness are one. Everybody out there, when we're not expressing through our physical body, at our consciousness, there's no separation. There's no separation between you and me, or me and anyone else, or Obama, or Mother Teresa, or Hitler. There's no separation between any of us, because we all share the same consciousness. So when we're without our body, there's no separation between me and God. But when we are in our bodies, we feel the separation, you and me, or whether it's a Hindu, a Christian, a Muslim, we feel we're all separate. And we feel that any kind of guidance or help or what we pray to, we feel that even that is something separate. When we're not in our bodies, there's no separation. It's all one. It's a state of non-duality. So even God is not a being that is separate from you and me. We're all merged. We're all one. And that is the state of God. It's a state of being.
Now, of course, religions say that God is omnipresent, and if he's omnipresent, then there's no iota of creation which he doesn't permeate already. And so really, in reality, we're not separate. We can't be separate, right?
Yes.
And exactly. Now being in the body is not necessarily a sentence of separation, because we hear of saints who are God realized, and presumably they've learned to appreciate the essential unity of everything while in a body.
Yeah.
I imagine that to a great extent that has become your experience. I'm sure you don't feel the sense of separation that you once felt. There must be a great deal of unity or oneness or something.
Yeah, so when you've had such an experience, you lose that sense of separation. And this is why I say that there's no separation between us and what we call God. We think we're separate. So even we think you and I are separate. We think you're separate from Buddha or Jesus or Krishna, but we're not. We're absolutely not. We are all expressions of this consciousness. And the more that people realize that, I mean, if we were to teach our kids at school that we are actually not separate, that we are all one, we're all the same. If we were to teach that, and if we were to teach them to collaborate with each other because we're all part of the same one, rather than to compete, we'd have a very, very different race of people. We'd have a different planet.
Mm.
If you try to define it, you run into problems because it is so simple that it's best described in English as this: you are. Stop. The minute you say anything other than that, you're talking about something earthly. We don't have English for other things. Your sixth sense is still working very well. I say still working because your sixth sense is working while you're here. It's one of the things that you choose to ignore to be here. You choose to because it makes the experience of being here have more depth, more intensity, if you will. It takes on a more realistic look to it. If your psychic sense is working, if you're still picking up on what everyone else is thinking, including yourself, and what goes on outside this planet, you're not as focused on the book. So people have often asked me, how do you become psychic? And I just have to laugh. No, you don't become psychic. You are psychic. You forget that you're psychic. You let go of your senses here, and your sixth sense is still right there, and you have got it at all times. And it is not something that you do. It's that you stop doing this. So people look to try to figure things out psychically, and they think there's some effort you have to make. No, you stop making an effort. It's the exact opposite of what you would expect. You stop thinking about focusing here. You stop thinking about your sensory input here. You stop thinking about a whole frame of reference of being here. Meditation is wonderful for this. It centers you, if you will, in source. You let go. Basically, people, when they tell you to meditate, they'll say, you just sit in one place, close your eyes, try and just ignore all sensory input and say, I am. Excellent. That is source. Very definitely. And don't be too terribly disappointed if you find that you cannot turn on the psychic charms and become the world's renowned psychic overnight, because you lose a lot of depth of what's going on here if you choose to do that.
Well, my understanding is that if one is enlightened, one's heart of compassion is fully opened. And if you are doing things that are hurting other people, you're not an enlightened being. If you're doing things that hurt people, you're not an enlightened being, because the definition of enlightenment to me is that one is in union. One is there's no longer separation. Your pain is my pain. Your love is my love. Your body is my body. We're all one being. So I can't do things that are going to hurt you. It just is beyond the realm of possibility, because because there is no separation. We live in a culture that's really preoccupied with the physical, with entertainment, with accumulation. And this idea of just being joy and letting go into love is going very strongly against the current that we're participating in every time we turn on the television set or go out in public, practically. So certainly there are many people who have been on the path for a while and have reached some degree of attainment. but again and again get sucked back into being identified with who am I in relationship to what it is that's going on out there. Ram Dass has this great quote, if you're a son of a bitch and you get enlightened, you'll be an enlightened son of a bitch. So that it isn't that our personality completely falls away, it's still there, but that as we proceed, we become much less attached to the way we're manifesting. And I really think that the strongest practice at this time, which is, according to some people, a rather dark age, if you will, is some combination of a deep inner contemplative practice combined with an outer intimate relationship with dying. And in fact, Trungpa Rinpoche, one of my first meditation teachers, said that until one comes in intimate contact with dying, your spiritual practice will have the quality of being a dilettante. Because until we know we're going to die in our bones, that very probably we're using meditation to become better, to improve, to do the best we can in the dualistic realm. And in fact, in Buddhism, they have what are called the 4 mind-turning truths. The truth that if we really become them, not just think about them, but take them into our core, that it turns our mind towards the truth. And the first one is we're going to die, but we don't know when. The other 3 things that turn us toward the truth are life is precious. This is the only moment in which we can be together. This is the only moment in which we can awaken. This is the only moment in which we can love. The third truth is there is karma. What we do, what we think, what we say has an effect. And the last truth is if we act with attachment, with grasping, with rejection, then we create suffering. So all of these things are rather obvious intellectually for anybody who's done some thinking. But if we gather them together like a bouquet of beautiful flowers and take them inside, then it brings us into this immediacy of living that wants to find that truth in each moment.
What does the world look like to an awakened soul?
I don't think there's a moment of awakening. I think it's a process. I can just tell you from my own experience, I was not a very nice person when I was younger. Before I figured this stuff out, I was living for myself, and I was pretty selfish about it. And everybody who is living for him or herself is by definition not very well spiritually advanced. As I began to learn this stuff, it began to be more important to me to grow spiritually than to have money or to be popular or belong to a club or any of those things. I started not caring about those things. The most spiritually awakened people I know live very simply. They love people very deeply and they love everyone and they have compassion even for people that are mean to them. They just stop caring about these physical trappings. To the most awakened people I know, and more and more people that I'm meeting, and I guess I feel this way too, we see a plan. We understand that we're always safe in eternal hands. People will say to me, what if this or that bad thing? And I would say, if it's meant to happen, then let it happen. If it's not meant to happen, God will not allow it to happen. You lose fear. Fear of death is the base fear. Once you get rid of that, you have no fear of anything. And that's a glorious thing. People who are spiritually awakened don't kill themselves. They aren't hastening their death. They know they're here for a reason and they're trying to fulfill their reason. But they don't fear death at all. I mean, when it happens, I'll be delighted.
It's so humbling to have that sense of love coming to me, radiating to me. Because I think for most of us, we spend a lot of our life not feeling loved, and certainly not feeling loved on that level. And when you're able to, touch in and have that, it's such a gift. So I guess the point of my whole experience has been that I needed to die to get a life, to understand how life works, because I didn't have a handle on it. I thought that life was happening to me. I thought that everything that was going wrong or not going right was because of God was doing it to me, life was doing it to me. I hadn't a clue that I had any power in all of that. I didn't know that we are an extension of God. I grew up believing and being taught that we are created in the image and likeness of God. Well, I'm here to tell you it's a hell of a lot bigger than that. We are an extension of the God source here on earth. We were created so that the Creator could experience everything that we experience. We were created out of love. And the Creator's always got our back. Spirit's always got our back. And all is well, no matter what it looks like. All is well. And that's the part that we don't quite get. Because the mind is always telling us, the ego's always telling us, you're not good enough, you're not big enough, you don't know enough, you can never handle that. Because the ego's trying to protect us. What we don't realize is that the ego feels insecure continuously because the ego has no connection to God, to source, to love. And so it's always coming from anxiety and fear. And it's radiating in the dialogue we hear. And our job is to stop listening to that litany of junk that it's spewing at us because it's not the truth of who we are. We are these perfect children of God. We are here to have fun. We are here to grow and expand and have amazing experiences. We're not here to suffer, which was my assumption. I thought we were here to suffer, that it was painful here. It was always going to be painful here. It doesn't matter what it looks like. What matters is, how do you perceive it?
So I'd like to speak about something that may sound not related to gratitude, but is in fact very directly related. I wanted to call this talk Freeing the Real from the Unreal. Because when we know what we really are, gratitude is very natural. It rises up in a wellspring because of what we truly are. I want to start with two quotes from the non-duality teacher, Rupert Spira. The first quote is, "The discovery that peace, happiness, and love are ever present within our own being and completely available at every moment of experience under all conditions is the most important discovery that anyone can make." And the second quote is, "Give your attention to the experience of seeing rather than to the object seen, and you will find yourself everywhere." Now, we have grown up in a world of things, a world of places and people and events and linear time. That is the nature of being human. When we come to be human, we agree to be bound somewhat. I don't quite like the word bound because we're not truly bound, but it seems like we're bound into this experience of linear time and discrete location and physicality and all the things that go along with being biological and having a body. And as we grow up in that environment, we are taught certain things. We discover certain things through our experience as young children and then as we grow into adulthood. And we really do believe that we are our name, and we are our race, and we are our sex, and we are our nationality, and our work, and our jobs, and our relationships, and the things we have to do, and the aches and pains that we feel every day. We really believe we are those things. That is the very nature of being human. That is to have an experience that is so dense, and so in your face, and so consistent, and to be veiled from who we truly are while we're here, that seems like all there is. We really believe all the forms of our lives, form being the word that means distinction, the objects, the thoughts, the places, the things. So I'm going to use the word form. When I speak to form, I'm speaking about the distinctions that we think make up reality. But what we really are is, well, actually, it's not speakable. What we truly are is beyond a word, but we have some words we can try. One is consciousness itself, that which is seeing, that which is knowing, or beingness, awareness, aliveness, spirit. These are just words, but they point to that which is truly real. That which is truly real is that which knows these experiences of form. That which knows it is that life, that awareness, that consciousness. You, in fact, the you that is listening right now is the aliveness. That aliveness that we are, again, it's beyond words, but we might say that that aliveness is already, always, of love, peace, joy, and freedom. Love, peace, joy, and freedom are our true nature. They are what we are. That is the truth of being. And when all the other things are shed, when physical death happens and we return home, or when we have moments that we feel connected to the divine, when we hear something that we resonate with, when we see the beauty of nature, when we have these moments that we know our connection with the divine, we know just for at least a split second, wow, I am love and peace and joy and freedom. Now, that is not what we experience every moment of every day for most of us, because we are deeply tied into the world of form. We are deeply tied into our associations with all the things of the world that we think define us. And those things get threatened. For instance, you believe you are the body. And guess what? The body dies. We see other people's bodies die. We see our own bodies aging and deteriorating in certain moments of time. We see this and we think that's me. So I am threatened. Or we see that we think we are our jobs. I'm actually expecting an impending job loss in the spring. I've been in one company for 15 years. I'm about to lose that job. Is that who I am? No. But we do believe that we are the things that we do. Or our relationships, we associate, I am so-and-so's parent, or so-and-so's child, or so-and-so's lover, or so-and-so's friend. And then that person rejects us or goes off on their own or insults us or something. And now that identity that we thought was us, that feels challenged and threatened. Who am I if I am not this person's parent or this child or this lover or this friend? Who am I? We don't always feel the true boundlessness of what we are, because we have, by buying into the associations, we have taken a step into the illusion of separation. Now, it's a real experience. The experience of separation is real. We're having a real experience right now. But it's also not fundamentally real. It is, in a sense, a dream, a very real experience of a non-real dream. And the dream of the world of form and our association with it can cause a lot of pain, because then we think we're not full of power. We're not loving. We're not full of freedom. Now we think, I only am powerful if I can do this. I'm only loved if this person loves me in the certain way that I want. I'm only free if I can make this choice, and I can't. We define ourselves in that way, and we buy into these self-perceptions that do not align with the enduring truth of who we really are. So we are either consciously or unconsciously, and largely it's unconscious, not conscious decision, because we get trapped in these repetitive motions of thought. But one way or the other, we are grasping onto the straws of things, places, and the big one, thoughts. We are constantly grasping onto them. What's the next thought? What's the next thing I can do that'll make me feel better? What's the next thing I need to do? What will feel better now? What's the next thing? Next, always grabbing. That is the nature of the separate self. So this thing that I'm speaking about, our true nature that transcends that, it cannot be understood by the thinking mind, because the thinking human portion of us works in form. It works in thought. So if I say something about this, all you can do is think about it if you're using thought, which doesn't get us very far, because it's just referring to itself. I am trying to refer to something that is beyond and beneath that thought. So it's okay if you don't feel like you understand this idea. It's not really an idea that can be understood. All I can do is point to that which is underneath thought. Okay, so that being said, if this is not about that thought, if this is not about form, what we're ultimately doing here, what is ultimately what's going on? Life. Life is happening, experience is happening. The rich vibrance of form is happening within that which is always real and fundamental, life itself. So when we find that, as the Spira quote says, when we know that, we find that joy and love are always present in all conditions. All conditions. Because there is never a condition that exists without your consciousness perceiving it. Everything exists as it is known. Known by what? Known by life. Known by you or me. All of us. How can we possibly experientially find then that peace and that love that we are? Because when we find it, we do feel gratitude, because now we know, oh my gosh, I'm not the limits of the body. I'm not the limits of my job. I'm not the limits of my relationship. I really am more. So how can we experientially find that while we are so deep in this rich and amazing dream of being human? Well, there's not one thing that anyone can say, but I want to suggest 7 ideas that we can keep in mind, because we like to think in terms of practical things, specific things we can do, and I think these can help. These 7 suggestions help us to untangle that which is real, spirit, the I, the consciousness, with that which is unreal, the illusion of form, the association with the limited, the association with that which is separate and limited. Now, these seven things are also, when people talk about these ideas, each one of these might be mixed in with the idea of meditation. And in fact, meditation can be a practice of one or more of these suggestions. But I'm going to talk about them separately, because the thinking mind likes to think one thing at a time. So we can hold each idea, but know that most or all of these can be known as a purposeful and practical practice of what we call meditation. Meditation is just a word, but each of these are in a way a part of meditation. Okay, the first thing is we can benefit by spending time. That's key, linear time. We're here in linear time, so we got to use time, take time, spend time with our awareness itself. So what does that mean? That means taking time to sit and to return your focus away from the thoughts and the labels and all the must-haves and all the need-to-dos and all the feelings of your body and all the stress. Turn your attention back towards that which is the I itself, the experience itself. Now, this can be very difficult to start because, oh my goodness, after a lifetime of thinking all the time, every day, every second, we think thousands of thoughts a day. This stream, this momentum of thinking is constantly bombarding us. It's like standing in a river. I like the metaphor. It's like being in a river. So when you close your eyes and you sit down and try to meditate, it's just thoughts are just hitting you constantly. And you spend a few minutes doing that, you think, man, I'm not meditating. All I'm doing is thinking about lunch and paying the bills and like, I got to do this thing for this person. I can't stop thinking. That's okay. It's okay. The river has momentum because you've given it momentum by paying attention to the thoughts all the time. You don't stop the thoughts. You can't. All you do is stand in the river as best as you can and return your focus to the present moment. The thoughts begin to slow. It's like I don't know if when you were a kid, if you played in a pool and you went and did a whirlpool in the pool and made like momentum in the water with your friends, and it was really fun and the water's carrying you around. When you suddenly decide to stop, and you stand firm in the water, oh my gosh, all of a sudden all that momentum you built up's hitting you and knocking you over. It's kind of like that, except so you're not stopping the water by trying. All you're doing is standing still, and the water begins to slow. And in this metaphor, the water is thinking, thoughts. So spending time with that awareness itself is very powerful, because as you do that, the thoughts do lose their momentum. And as that happens, there are moments when the truth awareness can arise all on its own. It's not something you go and get. And the peace that you might experience is far, far worth it. Okay, so the first one is to spend time trying to locate and focus on awareness itself with your awareness. The second is mindfulness. Try to be aware of exactly what is at all times. That is, be aware of exactly what is happening, what is occurring, what is being experienced, including the labels that you are putting on it. Okay, including being aware of what beliefs you are imposing on this experience that you are having. And so there's really kind of two parts to that. There's one is becoming more aware of your own thoughts. I just had this thought, man, okay. You don't have to judge yourself, just notice. I just had a thought that this person in front of me gave me a bad look, now I must be ugly. whatever the random thought is that arrives, just notice it. And be mindful of, oh, I thought that. Just be mindful of what is actually occurring. And second, be fully present in all that you do. If you need to wash your hands, feel washing your hands. Feel the sensation of the soap and the temperature of the water. Feel what it's like to have hands. Be present in it. Don't be lost in the thoughts about everything else. Be present with what exactly is here now. Okay, the third thing, feel your aliveness. What do I mean by that? If you take, and sometimes we do this as a very simple meditation exercise, but if you try to feel, like if you close your eyes and you feel your hand, how do you know you have a hand if nothing's touching it, nothing's happening to it? If you notice, you can feel that there is aliveness in your hand. That aliveness is you. It's not specifically the form, the definition of the hand, the temperature. It's the living presence that knows a hand. It's always there. So if you spend time feeling that in your body, that bodily aliveness is not just physical. It feels very physical because we've come to associate the aliveness with a physical, dense biological body. But that aliveness, that body of aliveness, that is what you really are. So allow yourself to dwell in and just feel the aliveness. You don't have to label it. You don't have to think, oh, I'm old, I can't feel that, or oh, I'm fat. Oh, no, the feeling of aliveness doesn't need any of that. It doesn't care about any of that. It's just alive. So allow yourself to feel that and to spend time in that. Okay. The fourth is being willing to be shown what is really real. And what I mean is allow spirit to show you what is really going on, even if you don't like it, or even if it's something you don't want to face, even if it's something you're afraid of, or even if it's something that contradicts your own beliefs. Even if it is not aligned with your current expectation or beliefs, choose to be brave enough to see clearly. When you're ready, when you're actually ready, you will be shown. Spirit is working with us every day. And number 5, similarly, be willing to feel. Do not resist the feelings that arise. If you feel something, you feel it. If you feel it, you feel it. Many of us are trained to ignore our own feelings or to try to maybe put new feelings on top of old feelings. Just acknowledge, I feel this way. Allow yourself to feel it. And if something is scary to you, especially then, when you feel fear, what feeling rises up in you? Don't be afraid of the feeling. It won't kill you. Facing fear requires feeling, and you need to be willing to feel. Okay, number 6, watch your own choices and behavior and be willing to see your own motivations clearly. And then when you make a choice, or when you treat someone next to you a certain way, or when you're grumpy about something, try to be honest with yourself. Why do I feel that way? Why am I choosing that? Just be willing to basically be willing to see your own imperfect motivations. It's okay. That takes a lot of bravery, and that is a very powerful thing to do. And number 7, have fun. Have fun. Our true nature is of joy and fun. There's a great Seth quote I love. On one hand, you take life too seriously. On the other hand, you do not take play seriously enough. I love that quote. I think about that often because we go about our lives and we're being so serious, and we got to make sure that we do the right thing and vote for the right person, and we got to do our work, and we got to make sure we pay those bills, and man, it's raining outside, I got to get my umbrella or I'm going to get wet, whatever. We take it so seriously. The spirit is full of joy and playfulness. Those who interact with spirit, in fact, mediums or those who are practiced at having experience with that interaction, they know it's always fun and joy, and everything's like, not a joke, but everything's kind of like a big happy, like it's constant. Everything is just full of layers of humor. And that's because fun. And that's because fun is really what we love to do. We love to have fun. Is fun because we love fun. I don't know how else to put it. When we play with form, like if you see two dogs and they just met each other and they start playing and they're rolling around, they're not thinking about who they are, what they're allowed to do, what they're not. They're just having fun. Kids do that too. They don't have all the labels yet, so they just want to have fun. They have fun with everything. You give them a cardboard box. It's the most fun thing in the world because the spirit loves having fun and working with form. Any form. Doesn't matter the form. Everything can be fun because fun is really what we are. Okay. So if we keep those 7 things in mind, we tend to untangle our real selves, our joyful selves, from our association with form. And as we do that, this serious suffering that seems to plague us every day, all of a sudden it just isn't there. Well, why? Did we go solve our suffering? No. We're just seeing clearer. Our experience is more reflective of what we really are. There's a Rumi quote. I believe I read this last time, but I'll just bring it up again because I really think it summarizes this well, and I think it's worth hearing. I wish everybody could hear this and know this. You spend your lives going from room to room looking for the diamond necklace, hunting for the diamond necklace that is already around your neck. That is, we spend all of our lives trying to find the thing that's going to satisfy us. The food, the activity, the relationship, the state of being, the health, whatever it is. We're always searching. If I just would get this, I'd be happy. And it might work for a little bit. Might have a few brief moments of moderate happiness. True joy and true happiness needs none of those things. It is what we already are. You cannot lose what you already are because you are spirit. You are connected to God and to the source. You are connected to all things. We're connected to each other. That connection, that love, that power is what we really are. And it never, ever, ever goes away. That is the ultimate gratitude, right? Because if you know that, all thanks and all joy is in that. And I believe that is why so many times when we depict the heavens, we depict angelic choirs and those singing Alleluia, holy, holy, holy in the highest, praise be to your name forever, because we know the truth in our being. The truth of unconditional love. Grace is the Christian term. Love that is always given, freedom and power that is always given, that we cannot earn. It's just given by the love of source. It's powerful stuff.
And then what happened was I questioned that where I was, and communication came to me, or somebody told me that you know very well where you are. And then I had a few questions that who is God, what's God, and the communication came to me saying that I have all the answers inside me. Somebody told me that you know all the answers, and all you need to do is look inside you, listen to yourself, and everything is in you.
I don't have any proof that I was gone. I just know that I experienced something incredible and that it was a very real place. I was left with the idea of God consciousness in a whole new way that, I've heard it said in meditations and, forever, and God consciousness this, God consciousness that, go into that place. And it's like, what is that place? And that, that unity, that oneness, imagine a tapestry. This is how it was left with me. Imagine a tapestry around the earth and pull down a little piece of thread, and that's you, okay? And then pull down this little piece of thread, and that's me. And then when we're having, little human experiences, and we only get to experience one emotion at a time, and we get to be dynamic in ourselves, and we get to have an identity, and be this or that or whatever. And then when you go back up into the tapestry, and then you're part of each other again, right? And that's God consciousness. So we're always connected to that God consciousness because we are God consciousness. And that's how it was left with me. Having a practice, having your own practice, It is a relationship with yourself. It is a relationship with your God consciousness. It is a relationship with everyone's consciousness. And the more you can be at peace with that, and the more you can drop into yourself and love yourself and say, yes, this is what I want. This is what I truly want. This is what my soul wants. The more you can connect with that, the quicker things are going to happen in your life, and the quicker things are going to be attracted to you that are going to help you to get to that point.
Is that experience of that deep, deep sense of I-ness, that deep sense of amness, is what we call God. And when you're in deep meditation, the qualities that start arising are the qualities we ascribe to God. You know, God is peace. There's that deep peace in meditations, that the heart opens, that feeling one is love. You know you are love. It's usually covered up by all the other stuff that's going on. God is light, the light of consciousness. In fact, if we say God is, even looking from a traditional point of view, God is the source of everything. Everything in the world, as I've been saying, is a manifestation of consciousness. God is consciousness. The way we know God is by knowing consciousness in its essence.
We are everything. We are conscious. We are part of everything. When you understand non-locality, if you really look at non-locality closely, there is no space. There is no expansion. There is no openness, this huge thing. The whole universe is located in one little singularity, one little spot. The whole universe is one thought, being thought somewhere, okay? And we are all part of everything. If I injure the plant over there, I'm injuring myself, okay? I'm part of the whole. Each of our consciousness is a little piece of sand, and the big consciousness is the whole beach made of all the pieces of sand, all together. You bring all those little pieces of sand together, you have a huge consciousness called the beach. And that's how we have to see it. We are part of the whole. Pierre Chillard de Chardin, he said, we cannot rip a piece of the fabric apart from the whole and look at it. It's all one. There is no separation.
So therefore, just in the same way that conscious attention is not aware of all the other operations of the body, so in just that way, we are not aware of our connection, indeed our identity, with the fundamental self. When the leaves die and fall off the trees, or the fruit drops, next year, more leaves, more fruit. So in the same way, when you and I die, more babies later. If the whole human race dies, you bet your life. There are all kinds of things that feel that they're human, scattered throughout the multiplicity of galaxies. Because this universe is a peopling universe, just as an apple tree apples. But because we are unconscious of the intervals, we are not aware of the self with our conscious attention when conscious attention isn't operating. But still, just as you don't notice what your pineal gland, say, is doing at the moment, so in the same way, you don't notice the connections which tie us all together, not only here and now, but forever and ever and ever and ever. The difficulty and the basic reason why we don't notice the self is that the self doesn't need to look at itself. A knife doesn't need to cut itself. Fire doesn't need to burn itself. Water doesn't need to quench itself. And a light doesn't need to shine on itself. So this is the fundamental problem of having some sort of awareness of the self. Nevertheless, it is the whole contention of Indian philosophy, especially what we call Vedanta, that it is possible, in a certain way, to become aware of oneself in this deepest sense, to know that you are the totality. And this experience is the real substance of Indian philosophy as a whole, both Hindu and Buddhist. It is called moksha, which roughly means liberation. Liberation from the hallucination that you are just poor little me. To wake up from that kind of hypnosis and discover that you are simply something, your organism, your physical body, your conscious attention, which is your ego, that you are something being done by this vast, indescribable self, which is out of time, which has no beginning, no end, it neither continues nor discontinues. It's beyond all categorization whatsoever. And so the Upanishads say, all we can say of it positively is the negative. Neti, neti, it is not this, it is not that. Anything, therefore, you can formulate, imagine, picture, will not be the self. So when you are trying to know the self, you have to get rid of every idea in your head. It doesn't mean, as some people seem to think, that you have to get rid of every sense impression. It isn't as if you had to go into a catatonic state of total absorption. Of course, that can be done. But the full moksha, the full liberation, is when you come back out of absorption and see this everyday world just as it looks now, but see as clearly can be that it is all the self. You can become aware of this tremendous interconnectedness of everything. And that is what somebody who is moksha, who is liberated, sees. He sees, shall we say, that everything goes together